Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us again. Today is Thursday, April 25th. Just double checking that. Yes, 25th. I cannot believe that we are just 1 week away from the month of May. We are coming up on halfway through the year in just like another month. We will be in the sixth month. And time is just flying by this year. But I appreciate you joining me today and taking the time to be with me. So, would love to hear from you. Drop in the chat where you guys are tuning in from, any questions or thoughts that you have that I can make sure that I'm going over tonight. Because as always, this is solely for you guys to make sure that you're getting information true and factual, not just what the news media would love to spin and have you believe. So thanks for joining me. Drop a comment. Let me know where you're coming from and let's get started. So today, I was reading an article and it was kind of funny to me because the title of this live tonight is What You Need to Know About Home Prices, specifically here in Georgia. And then this article came across my desk and it was the most expensive places to live that are currently on the market. And so, America's most expensive home currently is an 87-acre estate, which is on Washington San Juan Island. And this beautiful house is listed for a cool $58 million. So chump change for all of us, I'm sure. But with this estate, you get basically almost an entire island to yourself. It's a very large peninsula surrounded by water. So yes, it's gorgeous. I don't know how many of us are going to just have a cool 58 mil sitting around to buy it, though. If you do, let me know. I can connect you with someone. The next most expensive is this gem right here for a cool 37 mil, which is in California. Not surprising. The top 10 places, four of the top 10 most expensive places were in California. Go figure. So thanks to you guys for dropping in. Hello from Decula, Georgia, from Dawsonville. Sure would be nice. You know, Betty, I would like to think so, but at the same time, it probably comes with a lot of cleaning. And that's just not my thing, nor do I want to have to pay somebody else to do the cleaning. So I will happily just stick with the home that I have that is a little bit more realistic for my living terms. But I wouldn't mind, maybe traveling and checking it out. I don't know, maybe stay for a week and then come back to reality. But could be nice. So thanks for joining from Decula and Dawsonville. Great places. I was actually driving through Decula the other day for my daughter's soccer. Great area over there. So today I want to talk to you guys about a couple of different things. I'm going to go over what you need to know about pricing here in Georgia, what we're really seeing in the market. I'm going to also talk about Governor Kemp just signed a bill. It's going to be for education. And so I'm going to talk about the details of that. Make sure you know all of the, details if that's something that is important to you. And then I'm also going to talk about foreclosures, the big F word, because I've seen it in the news and I want to make sure that you are being educated, like I said before, on all topics. So that being said, let's just dive straight in. So with home prices here, I want to just drop this slide up because according to Fannie Mae, 1 in 4 people still think that the market is going to crash. 1 in 4 people are still saying that they believe that we're going to see a downturn. We're going to see the market crash like we did back in the Great Recession in 2008. And so I can only contribute this thought process to the headlines, all the clickbait that goes on. You turn on the news or you read in articles, wherever, Instagram, AJC, wherever you're looking, and they've got these clickbait articles that talk about the doom and gloom. And my problem with this, and you've heard me say it on here 1,000 times, is that fear sells, right? It's much more attracting to someone, not attractive, attracting. To hear something that's scary and you want to read it because, oh my God, what's going to happen, right? And so with that being said, I just want to share all of the facts on here because if we set the record straight, This report shows exactly from January 23. Now, keep in mind, in Georgia specifically, we do have kind of like down markets, if you will, where we see a little bit less of sales. And for us, that's going to be in the wintertime, because if you're in the South and you're born and raised here, we don't like the cold. Our blood is not thick and we're not made for it. So we tend to stay in the house. Also, during that time, you've got the holidays, you've got different things going on. So it's just not our biggest season for selling. So if you look at this, you've got negative zero point 0.2 in January of 2023. Then you've got this whole green rainbow of goodness here. And then you come to January of 2024 and we're down 0.1%. Well, there's a whole lot more green than there is red. So it really just depends on, are you an optimist or are you a pessimist? Are you drawn to the red where you want to say, oh, in January, it went down, right? But then it also came back up. What you're not seeing on here is you're not seeing February, March, and April of this year, which we've continued to rise. I will get to that slide in just a little bit, but we're continuing to rise. So December, January are our usual months that you're going to see a little bit less traffic, a little bit less sales go on in the state of Georgia. But if you look at all of these numbers, they're just continuing to track up. In February, 0.2, March, 0.4, April, 0.5. It just continued to, go up. Now, obviously, November, December, we were only seeing 0.2 and 0.2. And then January, we saw a little bit of a loss at negative 0.1. But if you add both of the negatives together, it's still not going to give you anywhere near the positive. So it's definitely something that you want to just kind of decide, are you going to look at the glass half empty or are you going to look at it half full? With that one, I don't feel like you really can look at it half empty, but if that's how you choose to see things, maybe you need to change your lens a little bit, because here in Georgia, we're still continuing to see an increase in pricing. And so that's something right here. We saw an article, the latest article that actually hit the AJC was this one right here. The housing spring market nears the spring peak, but supply is limited. So that's a big problem that we're seeing here in Georgia, is that we just still do not have enough inventory. So right here, the average sales price of a home in the 12 counties centered around Atlanta was up 6.6% in the past year. So the average price point in the average of those 12 counties was climbing to about $402,000. Now, that being said, realistically, you can find homes around 300, you can find them around 400, you can find them going well over that. It just really depends on the area that you're specifically looking. So when they talk about the 12 different counties, you have to really understand that depending on what county you're looking in, if you're looking in, Fulton, well, Fulton has the city of Atlanta, but then it also has Alpharetta. So those two areas are going to be drastically different as far as what the home prices are going to be in that area. So if you're looking in one of those areas, please don't hear 402,000 and think that that's going to be the average everywhere, because it's not. If you're looking in the city of Atlanta, I think the average right now is around $350,000. If you were going out to Alpharetta, you're probably looking closer to $750,000. So it really depends on the city that you're looking in. Now, going back to this though, there are a lot of new home construction that we're seeing that is a little bit more affordable. We're seeing a lot of $400,000 and $500,000 options out there. So that is a big win when it comes to new construction. So despite increases in recent months, there's just not enough inventory. Homes listed for sale to satisfy all of the people who want to buy. So inventory in Georgia is still 45% below pre-COVID levels. So like he said, this is naturally good for those who sell, and we'll continue to see upward pressure on pricing. And it's simply the law of supply and demand. So this is something that I've been telling a lot of people when they're talking about why we're continuing to see prices increasing. It's due to the simple supply and demand. We still do not have enough homes listed for sale. I really think that this is contributing to the interest rates. If you have a 3 or 4% interest rate, or maybe even below that, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for you to sell unless it's something where you're needing to sell. You're going through a move for a job, or you're having, to downsize, you're going through a divorce. Something's happening in your life that is making it a necessary change where you need to sell. A lot of people that I've talked to want to sell, they want to move, but they just don't see it as being that important that they're willing to give that up. I will say, however, I found it interesting. I was gone earlier today from sunup to sundown, showing property, multiple different clients. And one of the things that I realized, one of the ladies that I was showing, we were at a lake house, and the guy that actually owns the property pulled up as we were pulling out, and he asked, what did you guys think of the property? So I let him know. I said, I think it's overpriced. It's a beautiful lot. It's a beautiful view of the water, but it doesn't have central AC. You have to walk through one bedroom to get to the next bedroom. These are just things that I, as a real estate agent, are going to, discount the home for. And I feel like you're at the top of the market. And he said, well, we just listed high to see what we could get. You should bring us an offer. This is what I preach to my sellers all the freaking time, because here's the issue. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, before 2020, 2021, and the whole, pandemic rush of housing, maybe a buyer would have just sent you an offer, thrown a lowball offer out there, what I call throw it and see if it sticks to the wall, right? So they might have made an offer and just see what you respond with. Unfortunately, 2020, 2021, it was such a hectic time for buyers, having to do multiple offers, having to do their highest and best offer. And so many of the sellers were just kind of declining everything, right? Like, if you're not coming with your highest and best, then we're not even talking to you. So I think buyers have kind of come to the realization, or I shouldn't say realization. They've been brainwashed the last couple of years that if you're not coming with your highest and best, don't even make an offer. So if you're a seller and you're trying to list high to see what you get, all you get is days on the market. And this gentleman, they've been on the market for quite a little while. And he said, I don't understand why anyone hasn't made an offer. And I said, well, I'm not your agent, clearly. I'm sure you've had multiple conversations with your agent about why you're staying on the market. But it's my opinion that buyers are not going to just throw it out and see what sticks anymore, because for the past couple of years, sellers have just basically been like, sorry, I already accepted an offer. So they're not even willing to make those offers anymore. So when you list your property, you need to really look at the comps, look at the CMA that your agent provides, and you need to list the property where the market is telling you the value is. Because people say, well, Ashley, how do you still get multiple offers on your properties? Because I listed it where the market told me it should be. And so it's a solid price. It's where the value is. And so then when people come and see it and they're like, wow, this is a great buy, then we get multiple offers, because I didn't list it high, because now I'm not even attracting people in to potentially even get one offer, much less multiple offers. So please, sellers, change your view, change your mindset a little bit, and stop thinking that, oh, if I list high, then, I have room to negotiate. I hear that all the time. You don't have room to negotiate. What you do is you left room to have to reduce the price. And now you hear that saying all the time, if you only get one chance at a first impression. Well, your first impression was you listed too high. And so now you've completely taken what's potentially like that first weekend is gold. That's why I always list properties on a Thursday. We go live or we start showings on Friday. We host an open house Saturday and Sunday, have a big kabang, and hopefully by the end of the weekend, we've got an offer or a couple of them. However, if you miss that first weekend because you overpriced your property, now you're having to reduce it. Now people are questioning, are they desperate? Why has it been on the market so long? People are talking. You missed your golden egg. So don't do that. If you have questions, call me. I don't care if you're in my market or not. I'll help you out. I don't like to see that stuff. So that being said, let's move on to one of the things that I get questions about often here, right? Because you watch the news and you probably have heard, the headlines again, going with the clickbait that foreclosures are on the rise, right? Who's heard that? I hear it. I watch the news. I only watch the news to see what should I research and talk about on here to make sure that you're educated. With that being said, with foreclosures, here's the situation. Let me show you. Absolutely, they are on the rise. If you look at 2022, we had 324,000. Keep in mind, this is national. This is not Georgia. This is national. 324,000 as of 2022. And as of 2023, we had 357,000. Now, if you look over to 2008, 2009, in the peak, 2010, we had 2.9 million. So from 2.9 million in the height of the recession to 357,000 as of this past year, that is a drastic difference. We are not even close to those numbers. So while that is a true, kind of inform that, yes, we are continuing to see a rise in foreclosures, the bottom line is you need to do your research, because in the years after the housing crash, millions of foreclosures flooded the housing market, depressing prices. That's not the case now. Most homeowners have a comfortable equity cushion in their homes. The reality is the data shows a foreclosure crisis is not where the market is today or where it's heading. So if you hear the market, or you hear on the news that they're saying that foreclosures are rising, well, compared to last year specifically, that is true. That is a fact. But what I would encourage you, and what frustrates me about a lot of people, is you hear a headline and you don't bother to go out and do your own research. So that's okay. Tune in to me on Thursday nights and I'll educate you for you. However, if you do research and just see, okay, well, compared to what? Foreclosures are up compared to what? We're over 2 million homes less than we were in any of the height of the crash. Even, let's go back to this slide, right? Because I just, this one makes me a little crazy. Even looking in 2007, 2006, when things were supposedly really great, 2005, 6, 7, we were below where we are today. And it's because in 2012, 13, 14, people were getting really good deals on these houses because people had overpaid back in 2006, 7. And so those people probably had to walk away from their homes. And it was a really hard time. I was a real estate agent during that time. It wasn't pretty. People have asked me to compare 2008 to like 2020 and 2021 because it was a completely different ball game. In 2008, sellers were losing their homes, where in 2020 and 21, they were able to sell it for whatever they wanted to. Both of them were awful. They were not great for the market in general, but this is what happens, and this is how we have market shifts. This is how we swing from a buyer's market to a seller's market, or from a seller's market to a buyer's market. So the bottom line on this is do your research. Make sure that you're really looking at where things should be. We're nowhere close to crisis levels, regardless of what the media is trying to sell you on. Now, let's go over and take a look at our comments real quick. Sir Anthony Banks, is it just new construction that's the only way to solve the inventory issue given where current rates are right now? I don't believe so. I really believe that a lot of what we're going to see is going to be seniors that are going to be downsizing, because they own, and when I'm talking I'm talking about baby boomers. So we're going to start to see a lot of them downsizing. They own more share of the market than anyone else. But we're seeing a lot of Gen Z, we're seeing a lot of millennials that are purchasing. I was reading an article earlier today. It actually was really interesting. Over 45% of renters said that they wanted to buy right now. They just didn't have anything to buy because of supply. They didn't care about the rates. They didn't care about the pricing. There wasn't anything to purchase. And so, really and truly, I think our biggest issue right now is supply and demand, which we've talked about. I don't think it's only going to be new construction, though. There is a lot of new construction being built. I was driving through Houston earlier today, which is a little bit further out. It's not one of the suburbs right around Georgia, but it's also not extremely far either. And in Houston, I probably drove through 6 or 7 new construction neighborhoods that are in the process of being built. 4 of those neighborhoods are all under $500,000. There were a couple that were a little bit higher, but the majority of those neighborhoods were neighborhoods under $500,000. Now, the issue with those is you're not going to have a huge yard. I won't say that they're right on top of each other because you do have a little bit of space, but they're not going to be like some of the older homes in the 80s and 90s where you've got half an acre or more, right? So it really is going to depend on what you're looking at. But I think that over the next little bit, we are going to start to see some of those boomers that are going to be downsizing. They don't want these massive houses. I really think that interest rates are going to be one of the biggest factors in getting them to sell, because currently it just doesn't make sense for them if they sell and they've got something locked in at 3% and then they buy something for less money at 6 or 7%, they're basically paying the same amount of money for something smaller. And the math just isn't there. So I think we're going to have to see these rates come down in order for supply to really balance. And until rates balance out, we are going to continue to see a supply issue, which is going to continue to drive pricing up. So I hope that helped and answered. You're right on. Also think of the income options people have now compared to 2008 to 2011. The gig economy wasn't a thing back then. People can weather unemployment better now to pay their mortgage. That's absolutely right. I know. I appreciate that perspective. We also have seen just a major shift in lending. I won't say that what happened in 2008 was a good thing. It definitely wasn't. And I surely did not appreciate being a real estate agent during that time. However, I learned a lot, and I think lenders learned a lot. And so something that I don't think a lot of people really take into consideration is lending changed drastically because of what we learned in the Great Recession. So lending now, it's not a fun process, if I'm honest. I'm a real estate agent, and I hate to say that because I want you to buy a house, but you have to be mentally prepared and financially prepared to go through the process of getting a loan, because they're going to be invasive. There is nothing that you're going to kind of like brush under the rug. If you got a divorce and you have to pay child support, that will be pulled out. If you lost a job or filed bankruptcy at some point and you're embarrassed about it, too bad. It's going to be talked about in this situation. They're going to look at your history, your credit history, everything you did wrong and everything that you did right. So don't think that you can just not show things, because they will find them. That's their job. But with lending itself, back in 2000 and even before that, we had a lot of issues with appraisals because the lender could actually choose the appraiser at that time. Well, if my buddy over here is an appraiser and I'm like, look, I really need this house to come in at around $500,000 because that's what we have an offer for. Can you make that happen? And they're like, sure, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, right? I'll keep feeding him, appraisals. He keeps giving me the prices I want. Well, that kind of helped us get into the whole 2008 situation. And so now, ever since all of that happened, a lender gets the file, but then they have to put it into a queue. They don't get to see what appraiser gets the file. They can't choose the appraiser. They don't even know who it is most of the time until they get the report back from the appraiser. And so now there is no you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of situation, which for all of us in the buying and selling situation, that's how it should have been the whole time. The other factor that came into play is cash. You can't just walk into a closing with $300,000 in a briefcase and say, okay, I'm here to buy the house. Now they're going to source those funds. They want to know where those funds came from. And yes, that can be a pain sometimes. However, it's for your benefit and to keep us safe, because, they don't know what you just sold and walked in there and where that money came from. So a lot of positives did come from the Great Recession in terms of what we learned. And it's one of the things, like I tell my kids, if you can fail forward and learn from it, learn from your mistakes, then, we'll consider it a W, we'll consider it a win. Growth cannot go on forever. It's mathematically impossible. Eventually, we have to embrace a degrowth mindset in a capitalist society. I am 100% with you as far as growth can't go on forever. We will hit a ceiling at some point. I feel like if we don't start to see interest rates balance out so that buyers and sellers can kind of have a coming to Jesus meeting, if you will, then we're going to see real estate come to a halt. We already are really seeing it in a lot of ways. Sales are down about 30% so far this year compared to last year, and even more so compared to the year before that. Just because, again, supply and demand, it just doesn't mathematically add up. So at some point, we will have to see a balancing act, if you will. Switching gears on you guys, Governor Kemp just signed this into law. This actually, it was last week, but it's for the education school vouchers. So I've been having a lot of questions about this, what this looks like, who is this for? And so this is something that actually was on the ballot before. It did not make it. This time it was passed. The Senate Bill 233, the Georgia Promise Scholarship Act is its official name, but it's established a taxpayer-funded program that might initially cost $140 million a year. It creates a voucher program for general education students beginning in the fall of 2025. Now, but who is this really for? So any child who lives in the attendance zone of a public school performing in the bottom 25% on state measures is eligible for this new voucher. The student will have to attend their local public school for 1 year unless they are a rising kindergartner. If they are a rising kindergartner, they can go straight into a private school. And so basically, the parents must also live in Georgia, and the priority will go to families earning less than 400% of the federal poverty level, or about $120,000 for a family of 4. So number one, it's crazy to me that that's what the poverty level is as of today. However, a lot of people have been questioning, why is this happening? Well, a lot of real estate is not sold in specific areas because of the school districts. So I know one of the factors when people come and talking to me about what is important to them when they're looking to buy a home, if they have kids or if they are thinking about having kids, or just resale in general, a lot of people take that into consideration, like, hey, my kids are grown already, or we're not even planning on having kids, but we know that for resale down the road, education plays a big part into the resale ability of our property. Because if a family is wanting to get in, they're going to want to make sure that the schools are looking good. And so sometimes we are seeing that real estate is not sold as quickly or as much in areas that do not have highly ranked schools. Niche.com is a website that I talk to people about when they're looking at homes here, because unfortunately, being in real estate, our hands are tied. I can't tell you where to live based on school districts. I can't even tell you, oh yes, I think that is a great school. You would love that school, because that is called steering. Google it. I can't do it. But niche.com can tell you exactly what all of the schools are ranking. I personally, as a parent, not as a realtor, as a parent, I don't love all of the school rankings, and I don't really agree with all of the school rankings, because to me, what the kids are like, what the teachers are like, is more than just if the students test well and are doing well on their exams. But that's a personal thing. I know a lot of parents ask me about, well, what are the schools like? The thing I would tell you about that is go on some of the Facebook pages in the areas around. I know all of the suburbs around Atlanta have personal Facebook pages. Even some of the schools have Facebook pages. And if you get on those Facebook pages and just say, hey, we're looking and thinking about making a move to Swanee. We're looking at a house in this specific district. It's the North Gwinnett district. Can you tell me, does anybody go there? What is it like? What are the teachers like? What are the kids like? those types of things. You can really get a feel for this. But in certain areas where it is, the schools are not ranking well at all, this would be able to be given to kids, to parents, to be able to help them afford going outside into a private school situation. So if they were moving to an area, not great schools, this would give them about $6,500 per child that could be credited toward going to a private school. So we've had backlash and we've had positives. Some people are all for it. They think that it's a great thing. It's going to help kind of generate the market in those areas, because then it's going to give people an incentive. Hey, the schools here aren't great, but you could still live here and have this voucher. Other people are saying it's taking our tax dollars and putting them somewhere else that it shouldn't be. If you want to go to public school and you don't like it, move, go to a different public school. And they're also saying that instead of putting that money towards vouchers to go to private school, maybe take that money and pour back into those schools that aren't performing as well and try and get those schools, to higher ranking. So a little bit of back and forth on everybody's part. Who is right? I'm not going to say. Everybody has their own opinions, but I definitely think that it's something that has been talked about for quite some time. There's multiple other states. Once I really started diving into this, there's multiple other states that have already had this for decades. Washington is one. I think they actually started this back in like the late 80s or early 90s. So they've had this program for years. Georgia, obviously, just getting it here in 2024. It's not going to take place until 2025 because they've got to get the funding together. So I think it will definitely be interesting to see how that plays out and what that's going to look like. We'll have to kind of see my thing is going to be watching the ratings of those schools, if they change at all with this voucher program, and then also looking at real estate in those areas and seeing if we do see home values go up or if we see the number of sales go up in those particular areas, because I think it's going to be something that's really interesting to see how they really correlate together. So that being said, I will get off of my high horse and talking about all of this good stuff. I appreciate you guys tuning in with me tonight. As always, I hope to see you next week. Have a fantastic weekend. Here in Georgia, it is sunny and I hope it stays that way. And I will see you guys on the next live stream next Thursday at 7 o'clock.